2025 has been the year of the zero torque putters. It started with the likes of Lab, and then other major brands like Callaway and TaylorMade have moved into it as well. But now I can introduce to you golf's premium putter brand, Scotty Cameron, are bringing to market 2 low torque putters. Now we'll get into why it's called low torque and not zero torque in a second, but first let's go hit some putts. So I'm at Woburn at the Titleist Performance Centre, and what I have today are 2 low torque putters. We've got the Scotty Cameron Studio Style Fastback OC, which stands for Onset Centre, and we have the Scotty Cameron Phantom 11R OC Onset Centre. So 2 different, very different looking putters, and one in each line. So we always have the Scotty Cameron Phantom line and we have the Studio line. So we have an Onset Centre low torque putter in each. Now I'm going to start with the Fastback because I just prefer the look of it. And straight away what we see here are pretty much all the same bits of technology that we see in the sort of standard Studio Style range. So we've got that chainmail carbon steel face, we have the contrast lines on the back of the head, but what we are seeing is the shaft going straight into the top of the center of gravity, and that's what makes this low torque. If you've watched any of the other low torque videos that we've made on the putters, you'll understand that technology by now. But basically when the shaft goes straight into the center of gravity, the amount of twist on the face is less. Now straight away, something I really like about this putter is how the ball comes off at a familiar pace to the other Studio line putters. Something I've noticed in some of the low torque or zero torque putters, the ball comes off just generally really slow. So whether that's the face insert or just the material they're made out of, I don't quite know, but the ball comes off this at exactly the ball speed I'm expecting. So straight away my distance control has been pretty much unchanged from putting with my normal putter. So Scotty Cameron have actually been quite slow in bringing out their version of the low or zero torque putters, and that's because he was very particular about wanting to get this right and make it something that he can be proud of. So there's a couple of key differences here in this putter compared to some of the others on the market. So the first one is the shaft stiffness, and actually we don't have a stiffer shaft in this putter as we do see in some of the other low or zero torque putters, and that's because you generally just will lose a bit of feel when that shaft gets really stiff. And the other thing is we don't have as much shaft lean in this putter. So we've got 1 degree of shaft lean where some of the others have 3 to 4 degrees. And that's just because he believes that when he's measured the best putters in the world, they generally they don't lean the shaft 3 or 4 degrees. It puts your hands in what he believes an unnatural position, which can affect your stroke and all sorts. So we're trying to have this low torque technology because it's trendy and people are looking for it, but we still want it to be a Scotty Cameron and we want it to feel that way too. Other things are just difference between this and a normal fastback is this head is 10 grams heavier, so the putter does feel heavier when you swing it. Some people will like that, some people won't, but it does feel like a quality tool. It doesn't feel cheap or light. It feels like a Scotty Cameron as you just expect. Nowhere near hard enough. Go. So for those of you that have been interested in low torque but like me have struggled with the way they set up, and more particularly I feel like most of the low torque or zero torque putters on the market have all looked a bit left. Basically what I've learned today is that's because the distance between the shaft and the leading edge is quite big, and the bigger that gap between the shaft and the leading edge, the more left the face might look. So this fastback option actually has probably been the best looking option, just in terms of it looking more like a normal putter. It sort of just looks a little bit like a center shafted putter more than it is like a low torque style. Which I think is really cool. I'm really excited about that. I think it's, I'm interested in the technology, but some of the designs out there are so sort of space age or wacky that I've not been able to use them just because they don't look right behind the ball. Whereas this thing actually sits really clean, the lines are all really sharp, it lines up well, and it doesn't look closed because of that small gap between the shaft and the leading edge. So that's really interesting, and you know, might get this putter in the hands of more of you that want to try the technology but are just frightened by the shape. The reason they're calling it low torque or not zero torque is because Scotty Cameron believes there's no such thing as zero torque. Just by the way that the grip sits on the shaft would make it have some torque. But what low torque means is if you spun this putter on a flat surface, what would happen is this putter will always finish in the same place. It will always, no matter how I spin it, it's always going to finish in a toe-up position. Now, if you had a putter with zero torque and you spun it in place, it would always fall and finish in a slightly different position every time. And we just don't believe that that's out there. So it's low torque, not zero torque, but it is still the same technology that you're seeing in the likes of Lab, in that zero torque Spider, and in the Odyssey. So we have the Phantom 11R OC. So this is a very familiar shape. You've seen this before. It's a very popular Phantom shape. And what we have here is a much more, what I believe is like a standard looking low torque putter. So the shaft is pretty much going into what feels like nearly the center of the putter head. And that's just because with the wings on the back of the putter, the center of gravity is further away from the face, which would make it more forgiving, but the shaft has to go into the center of gravity, so that's further back. So this is sort of almost similar to what you might see in a Lab. Something I do like on this putter is the line on the top line is very long, so I think that's going to help me line this putter up well and mitigate some of that left looking feel that I get from it. Again, we have that black shaft and the Matador grip, which is the same as on the Fastback. The other thing as well is we do have that chain link milling on this. We don't have a carbon steel face like we do on the Studio Style, but we do have the same milling, so we should get, again, a familiar ball speed. Now, I found this one feels a little bit softer than the Fastback, but it does sound a little bit softer. It sounds different, and the ball's probably coming off at a very familiar speed. It just sounds a little bit different. It's not that I don't like zero torque. You definitely could believe or cut up a load of clips of me saying it basically is a non-thing. But I find that if you've got an open face, you've got an open face. If you've got a closed face, you've got a closed face. Having a zero torque putter doesn't help you do that, or, you know, that won't change that particularly. Now, what I do think is this putter feels different to stroke than, you know, a standard plumber's neck or an offset putter. I do think that if I point it in the right direction at address, there's a pretty good chance I'm going to be able to start it on line or on my desired line. Now, whether I get that line right or wrong, again, will determine whether the ball goes in. So this putter will not cure my green reading. But I quite like that Scotty Cameron have tried to, they've built, some of the technology in this putter is all about helping your pace control. So having the right weight, having the right shaft stiffness. Because one of the things I think that some of the brands have got wrong when designing their zero torque is all the focus is on the face and the face control and the start line, but that's just one of 3 skills you've got to use and have developed to hold putts out on the golf course. I've seen a few people with zero torque putters in lessons who can stand on a putting mat and knock it through a tee gate, like as well as any tour player, but out on the golf course they're not great putters. So you still have to have good green reading and you still have to have good pace control because the ball will not go in otherwise. But if you're a person who feels like with this style of putter, you can start the ball on your desired line more regularly, then that is absolutely the right thing for you. And if it's going to improve your performance, then you should definitely do it. You know, don't let me and my old school opinions on what putter design should be like change that. Let me hit a couple more. I do think if you gave me enough time, I could probably get used to it and I would putt quite well with it. Probably this putter is more than any of the other low or zero torques, just because of, you know, how solid the strike off the face feels, how good the putter sits behind the ball. I think the 1 degree lean suits my eye a lot better than the 3 or 4 degree lean. So maybe Scotty Cameron is right about that. And you know, obviously just love the aesthetics of the black grip, black shaft. I think, you know, when you pick up these Scotty Cameron putters, you know, you feel like you're using something expensive. You feel like you're using like a serious bit of kit, which again, I think all these little things are just going to help you putt better. You know, when you pick up a Scotty Cameron off the shelf and you put it down behind the ball and you go, well, that just sits right. It sits right for a reason. They've thought about every single corner on these putters, and it's all designed with the view to making sure that you put it down behind the ball, you've got the highest confidence, and you give yourself the best chance of making that putt. So we now have 2 low torque Scotty Cameron putters, and actually I'm pretty pleased with this lineup. I think it's nice to have 2 different head shapes, 2 different sort of shaft positions, 2 different sizes, because I think not everyone's going to like this one and they might like that one, or not everyone's going to like this one because they might like that one. I think they offer sort of 2 very different things for different types of players, but a zero torque golfer or a low torque golfer is going to look at these and they're going to find one that they like out of these 2. There's no doubt about that. Another thing I believe is Scotty Cameron have obviously taken their time in designing these putters. They've not rushed it out just to capitalise on the immediate demand because these are sort of in vogue right now. They have designed something that they can be proud of, and when you get them in your hands and try them, you are going to notice that, because they do feel right. The ball sounds right off the face, they look right behind the ball, and they are going to give you the best chance of knocking them in. I'm not certain that this one style of putter is going to suit everybody. Zero torque definitely isn't for everyone, but if you are that sort of player, or you're looking for something new, you're looking for a putter that feels different when you stroke it, getting one of these in your hands is going to make a difference. And I'm pretty certain you're going to see quite a few of these on tour, because I know that there's demand for it. So get out there, give them a test, let me know how you get on in the comments. Are you going to try one? Would you buy one? Would you buy this over one of the other zero torque putters? But I think this Fastback, of all the low torque putters I've tried this year, will probably be my favourite. So give them both a try and let me know how you get on.